What's up, guys? Today on Lifestyle, we're going to continue the TDI swap series. In the last episode, we pulled the motor from the donor car, and we talked about why this is a viable swap in the first place. In today's episode, we're going to mount the engine to a stand, we're going to go over the different types of TDIs, and we're even going to talk about the best recipe, in my opinion, to make the highest horsepower. First, I'm going to bolt up this TDI to the engine stand. This stand isn't great, but I got it super cheap, and it works well for small engines like this TDI. Being able to mount an engine to something you can roll around your shop and rotate at will is extremely valuable. If you shop around, you can find good deals on tools like this. I scored this one a few years ago for 10 bucks. When you're mounting your engine to the stand, take extra caution here. A lot of people get hurt by engine stands falling over or by cherry pickers falling over, things like that. And this is only like a 350-pound engine-ish, fully dressed, but that is plenty of weight to hurt me if it fell on me. So this is one of those times where it doesn't pay to rush through it. Make sure you take your time, get everything bolted up really solid, put your lock pin in before you transport it, and just be very careful and cautious. It's expensive if it falls over on the floor, and it's expensive if it falls over on you. Like I said in the last TDI swap video, I like to soften up any dirt in the electrical connectors with WD-40. I gently work the connector off with a small flat blade screwdriver, and I make sure that I'm taking a lot of time and care here. Getting replacement connectors can be kind of a pain, so if you take your time, you don't break any of these fragile parts, you're not gonna have to worry about trying to find a replacement in the future. As I'm going through, I like to label as much as possible. I wanna know where everything came from, even if I think that it's not gonna be relevant. It can be much easier to troubleshoot what wires went where when you have everything labeled and you get to that next step. Our little TDI is looking a lot better without all the electronics hanging off of it. I've only got 3 sensors left, and I just left them on there because it was really easy to just unplug them from the main harness. This measures our exhaust gas temperatures. Then we've got a sensor for the crank position sensor, and the only reason it's still on there is because I don't have the socket to remove it for whatever reason. I can't find it. Of course, it is a 10 mil and it's a 12.10 mil, so I'm not gonna be able to remove that yet until I find that socket. And then there's the cam position sensor. I wanted to take a minute and just show you guys how easy the electrical portion of this is. A lot of people take a Jeep or a Toyota and they just throw a Chevy 350 in there. That's not a bad option, but this is honestly a better option if you're willing to learn very little about electrical. All you have to do is plug this stuff back into where it says. It's so simple. There's a few things that we're gonna have to solder and cut away. This stuff goes into the firewall and most of it doesn't need to be used. So we're gonna look at a schematic, we're gonna see what colors go to what. We're gonna remove all the stuff we don't need and just keep the stuff we need. It's so simple, honestly. So I know that we're gonna need an accelerator pedal that's gonna need to get wired into this somehow. We're gonna need a power, a ground, and an ignition. These two plug right into our ECU. Nothing crazy, you just plug it into the ECU. This is so straightforward if you take your time and you label it and you just kind of research how the basic system works. You know that it's a diesel, you're gonna need to hook your glow plugs back up. You know, oil filter housing, this is probably some sort of an oil pressure sensor, and you just plug it back in. There's nothing crazy here. Now this is the entire vacuum system. Super simple as well. This controls the turbo, this is called the N75 valve. You don't need to get hung up on what it does. All you need to do is hook up the little thing that says N75 valve to that, and you're good to go. This goes to the air box. It just needs a clean place to vent. This goes to the turbo and controls the turbo. And then we've got one for the brake booster and one for the tandem pump. The tandem pump creates vacuum for this system. But it is an extremely easy engine, and I really hope that in this series, I can convince some of you guys to come over to the more modern technology because it's not near as bad as people make it seem online. Now I want to take a couple minutes and I want to answer a question that I get asked nonstop, and that is, which version of the TDI do I recommend you use in your swap? So before we even get started, the rest of this video is going to be a big combination of facts and opinion. My opinions are based on what my experience is with Volkswagen diesels. I want you to understand that I have owned literally every version of Volkswagen diesel that was ever offered in North America, including the really rare ones. So my experience here fully informs what my opinion is on this topic. So this isn't like a forum thing where I just got a bunch of information off forums and I'm regurgitating it. I have a lot of experience with Volkswagen diesels, and it has completely shaped which engines I recommend you use. My opinion is that these are the best 4 engines to use in a swap if you live in the United States. Number 1, BHW, and that's what we're going to be swapping in this series. Number 2, the BRM. This is controversial, but it is my second favorite out of all the swaps, and it's what I have in my TDI swap TJ. The third would be the BEW, and the fourth is the ALH. The ALH, in my opinion, is the best VE-powered TDI sold in North America. This is a really good engine. The one that we had was the most efficient TDI I've ever owned. Our best tank, we got about 65 mpg. We drove from Seattle to San Francisco on 1 tank of fuel during my honeymoon whenever my wife and I just got married. It was pretty impressive. These also have the benefit of being able to swap them to a full mechanical setup if that's something that you're interested in. So if you don't want to mess with the wiring at all, there's no way you're going to work through wire diagrams or listen to my recommendations and you want to go full mechanical, you can do that with these engines, and that's pretty cool. If you want to build something that's like end of the world proof, it's a really good way to go. But unfortunately, the linchpin with these motors is that they have weak bottom ends. So this is the only TDI I have owned where I bent a rod, and it wasn't from making crazy power. I had the stock turbo, I had a better than stock tune, and then I had some better than stock injectors. And I think that you're more prone to bend a rod this way than if you put a larger turbo in it. If you put something in it that spools up a little bit higher, it's not seeing all that power right out of the gate. All that power on the bottom end that a diesel produces is hard on bottom ends. Once you get into the pump deuce generation of engines, the performance improves dramatically. You get a stronger bottom end, you get better turbos, you get a better injection system, you even get a smoother idle, a quieter engine. There's a lot of reasons to go with a pump deuce. These are superior than the previous TDIs in every way except for one, and that is the camshaft. This BHW has about 160,000 miles on it, and according to the previous owner, it's got the OEM camshaft and the OEM lifters. This is about when you start to see issues with the camshafts. The first one I did on my Jetta was somewhere around 205,000. I needed to replace the camshaft, so they last quite a while, but the OEM ones have got to go. The upgrade is an aftermarket one. This is the camshaft that I'm going to be putting into my TJ over there. This is a stage 2 from Colt. They're not a sponsor or anything. I bought this thing a very long time ago, and this is what I'm going to be using. The other big thing that you have to upgrade is your lifters. They don't sell the bad lifters anymore. I haven't seen them in forever. So the black lifters are hardened lifters. The OEM lifters that came in these engines are silver. So if you pull your valve cover and you take a peek in there and you've got silver lifters, it's very likely that they are completely stock and they need to be changed out and upgraded. So the next question is, why do I think the BHW is the best engine to swap? I use Malone Tuning for all my TDI stuff, and they're absolutely going to be the company I go to help me tune this monster engine that we're going to build in this series. But if you go to their website and you look up the BHW, and with just a tune, just a stock BHW with a stage 2 tune, we're talking about 174 horsepower and 305 foot-pounds of torque. That is way more than you can get out of any other diesel sold in North America with just a tune. The BRM and the BEW are both pretty good, but not as good, at 140 horsepower and 252 foot-pounds of torque, and the ALH is only rated at about 122 horsepower and 228 foot-pounds of torque, which is way less than the BHW makes. Now, if you wanted to turn an ALH into BHW power, you can absolutely do that, but you're going to throw a bunch of power mods at something in order to make it equivalent to just a stock BHW with a tune. So this is one of the big reasons that I think a BHW is a great swap candidate right out of the gate. In my opinion, to make a high horsepower American TDI swap, it would have the high flowing BEW injector bodies, it would have a BRM intake manifold, valve cover, and oil pump. I would also find a tier 3 turbo like the one that's mounted to the BRM, but mount it to the lower compression BHW in order to make sure that everything can stay together. In this channel, you are going to see me completely transform this motor. I'm not talking about some mild bolt-ons. I seriously want to try and make this the most powerful 4-cylinder TDI in North America. I want to make well over 400 horsepower. We're going to be throwing nitrous at this. We're going to be throwing gigantic turbo, gigantic camshaft. This is going to be a bananas build, and I'm very excited to share it with you guys. I know not all of you guys are into engine building, but some of you guys are gearheads like me, and you love this kind of stuff. Now, I could take all the money and I could put it into an LS and I can make 1,000 horsepower, but that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in squeezing out every drop of horsepower out of a 2.0 liter TDI and seeing how crazy we can get. I've started accumulating some parts. AirDog sent us a fuel system. This is what I would need in order to make those kind of power numbers. This is for a Duramax, which, believe it or not, is that's how big of a pump we need for the kind of energy we're gonna be producing with this little engine. And then we need to decide where it's going. Should I pick up a new project to put that in? I have been having a lot of issues with this OM617, so should I put it in the Jeep truck? You guys tell me. Do you want to see it in a one-of-a-kind rock crawler? Do you want me to build a drag truck? I think it would be cool to build like an old school drag truck, or even get like a little rabbit pickup truck and put that in. I don't know, but this needs a home. So we're gonna build crazy power. It's gonna get nitrous. It's gonna get crazy, but we need a place to put it. So you guys tell me what kind of project you would like to see it go in. I know this episode is a little bit information heavy, but I'm gonna make it up to you in the next one. In the next episode, we're either going to be working on the engine harness, and we'll show you how to whittle down and build a whole engine harness, or we're gonna start building the engine. It depends on what I have parts for first. So if this is the kind of thing that you wanna see, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you wanna help support the channel, you can go to thedirtlifestyle.com. We have t-shirts, hats, stickers. We even have a link to our Patreon account. If you wanna follow me on social media, I'm @DirtLifestyleNate. We'll see you next time.